So with Ceres we get fertility. You won't have anything more fertile in the chart than combinations of Sun, Moon, and Ceres. The Sun, your ability to procreate, and the Moon, your ability to take care of it after you get it. And combined with Ceres, you get your fertile periods. One of my funnier experiences was with a woman I did in a Midwestern state. Not long after I got the asteroid ephemeris, I was testing them out. And I had noticed that this woman's progressed ascendant was conjunct progressed Ceres in the first house. And so I was going to give me an opportunity to ask questions to find out what's going on in her life. And when I do charts, I'm looking at the chart. I'm not very observant of people. I'm not, a lot of people think all astrology is character reading, and you study the person and you watch every little clue that they make and follow up on that. Well, I'm busy looking at the chart and look at the person. So I'm saying, look at this chart, and I had vaguely registered that this was a large woman. But I said, are you thinking of having another child? And she looked a little disgusted and said, I'm 5 months pregnant. So I looked back to see when progressed ascendant had been on natal Ceres, and it was about 5 years earlier. So I said, did you by any chance have a child around 5 years ago? She said, yes, as a matter of fact. If I'd known that, I'd have been more careful. So we learned about astrology.
So was that period, that was a 5-year fertile period for her?
No, not the whole 5 years. When the progressed ascendant was on natal Ceres, and then it left it, and then it got to progressed Ceres.
Oh, I see.
And in another case, progressed moon was going over natal and progressed Ceres about 6 months apart in the 9th house in this chart. And this was a later experience. I remembered the first experience. So I looked at her age first before I asked questions. And she was past childbearing age. So I said, this is a fertility thing, but obviously we don't, doesn't mean we're always going to have our own children, but could be something connected to your children, or it could even be grandchildren, because it's the 9th house, and that's the children of the children, 5th from the 5th. So I said, is there anything, like real imminent, because one of these aspects was there when I was seeing her right then in the spring, and another one was in the fall, 6 months later. Anything that you know about that's, just happened or you're expecting in the immediate future, and anything you know about that might be coming in the fall connected to kids or grandkids. And she said, yes. She said, my last unmarried son just told me last night he's getting married, so I'm getting a new daughter-in-law. And one of my other kids is having a child in October. I'm expecting a grandchild. So those are the kinds of experiences that give you your clues as to what you're doing in astrology. It's your pragmatic experiences that tell you what you're dealing with. And just have to keep doing charts and watching life.
Did she send all her friends to you?
Actually, both those charts were done in another state. I wander around the world doing charts everywhere. And one problem is I don't usually get feedback. I don't know how they come out. The ones who come back in person here, I get, periodically I get a checkup on how they're doing. But lots of the others, you can't learn as much as you could if you really were watching them regularly.
I didn't like it. When I was 14, progress series made me exact on my moon, and I got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
An abortion.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of the cases I mentioned the other day when I was talking about it was the girl who had her progressed son on Ceres for 2 years, had 3 abortions in a matter of 6 or 8 months. She wasn't married, couldn't have a child at that time. It was just totally out of the question for her. But her unconscious was ready to have children.
Didn't she believe, I just have to ask this because you mentioned before, didn't she believe in birth control?
She was using astrological birth control, would you believe? Astrological birth control, which is totally undependable, and the rhythm method. And the astrologer who saw her was one of my students. I didn't see her in person myself, but the astrologer who saw her said, listen, while you've got Sun and Ceres together, use the pill. Or stay celibate for a while.
Still, I'd be curious. I mean, you think after the first abortion she would have thought, and certainly after the second one, it would have been a big, huge clue to this.
You would think so.
And that
But
sort of thing.
although a lot of
we tend to use abortion as birth
And
control.
sometimes you can use everything and still get pregnant.
Yeah.
Really.
It is possible. If your unconscious is really determined to have a child, it can do it in spite of any kind of contraception.
Sounds like a voice of experience.
Yes, I had my last two in spite of contraception, and I wanted them, and I'm so thankful now I have them. They're my mainstay in my astrology. So I definitely was supposed to have them, but the conscious mind at the time, I had a husband in school and no money, and it was absolute insanity to have 4 kids in 5.5 years. But I had them anyway. 4 kids in 5.5 years. That was, the person, the astrologer said couldn't have any kids. I have Saturn in the 5th, right?
Well, you've got 4 imaginary people wandering.
Right. Saturn in the 5th.
Well, I sure had time taking care of these imaginations. Boy, you must have been exhausted.
No, actually, I think that's definitely the way to go. They entertained each other, so once I got them past the diaper stage, it was no problem at all. They entertained each other, and I read books and did astrology.
5.5 years of pregnancy.
Yeah, it really was.
So you can look at the sun and moon, the natal sun and moon with Ceres, with progressed Ceres, or the other way around.
Any natal or progressed with any one of them, and other things aspecting them, like the angles of the chart, any planets, any ruler of the 4th house, 5th house can contribute. And the more aspects, the more importance, the more emphasis. But if you're dealing with someone who wants to get pregnant and you see aspects between those things, then just tell them, this is your opportunity. When the progressed moon comes into an aspect of Sun Ceres, do it then. You got your odds are with you. That your unconscious at that point is ready to do it. And on the other hand, if they don't want to be pregnant, tell them take extra precautions at such times. Progressed moon, yeah, because that moves the fastest. So those are the aspects that come and go.
Are you talking about a conjunction mainly?
Any aspect.
What about like the ruler, Ceres conjuncting the ruler of the 4th?
Yeah, sure. Those are valid aspects, but those last a long time. Ceres takes about 4 years to finish 2 degrees. So it will hold an aspect for as much as 4 years if it's a Ceres making the aspect. Whereas if it's a moon aspect to Ceres, it's like 2 months. Or extended if it goes on then to progress Ceres. So the aspects will vary in length. But any of them count. They're all part of the picture.
Do you find it just as significant with men as well as women?
Yes, I do find it with men too. But remember, it isn't just pregnancy. It's the whole idea of nurturing people. So I've seen it, for instance, a woman who had Ceres progressing over her midheaven. During that period, she formed a partnership with an older woman who was like a mother figure to her, and they wrote a book together. So you can't just assume it's going to be one detail. I'm just saying that's one of the possibilities. But it's the idea is working in a way that helps people, that nurtures people, that protects and takes care of people. Or looking for that for yourself. Looking for someone to do that for you.
I suppose Ceres in the 9th or maybe the 11th would be the birth of an idea or the birth of a book.
Yes, those would be excellent for writing, for teaching, for communicating ideas to the world. Working with the mind. And Ceres has the capacity, because the main thing with it is to do a good job for helping people. Ceres has the capacity to have children and to work in addition, to do both. Whereas Vesta has to do such a good job, it is so has this extreme need to do something well, that if very often a person with a strong Vesta will do an either or. They will just have children and then they will work, or they will just work and not have children. And they seem to, there's the tendency, when Vesta is really prominent, to feel, I can't spread myself too thin, I wouldn't do justice to it all, so I have to do just this, to do it really right.
So we could probably